Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. And I know it's late in the evening, but we have some, very interesting topic and two actually very special guest speakers today. So let me first introduce myself. I'm Clarence Tao, one of the co-founders of GoImpact, and it is a pleasure for us to be co-hosting this LinkedIn Live event with the FinTech Association of Hong Kong. And this is the last of the three series event that we've hosted together with FTAHK, covering the intersection between tech, fin, and green. Today's webinar is actually, the title of it is Greening the Economy, what it means for the different industries. So we have today actually, two guest speakers covering a broad spectrum of industries to share with us how the different industries are undertaking the green process. So let me first introduce the two guest speakers that we have today. Very delighted to have Chelsea Jiang from AXA and also Jennifer Tan from the Ant Group. So a little bit of housekeeping matters before we start the webinar. As far as Q&A is concerned, feel free to type in your questions on the chat box, and we will try to attend to those questions towards the end of the session. Okay, so without further ado, let me just quickly introduce the two speakers before I turn to today's webinar, the topic of today's webinar. Chelsea Jiang is the Chief Technical and Innovation Officer for General Insurance for Greater China and Director of Strategy for General Insurance Asia for AXA Group. Chelsea has held various senior positions in underwriting, distribution, and claims, working with most APAC countries, notably Australia, China, Thailand, Indonesia, Japan, Korea, and the Philippines. Her focus is to drive technical excellence, business strategy, and delivery using data, analytics, and innovation. Chelsea holds degrees in law and commerce from the University of Melbourne and Master of Business Administration from the University of Hong Kong. The second guest speaker we have is Jennifer. Jennifer Tan is the Chief Executive of Alipay Financial Services Hong Kong Limited and the Executive Vice President of Strategy, Development, and Government Affairs for the Great GBA of Ant Group. Early this year, she is also appointed as the Program Head for the 10 times 1000 Tech for Inclusion. Jennifer is an acclaimed visionary and leader in her organization, her industry, and the accounting profession. In 2021, she was one of the winners of the Outstanding Women Professionals and Entrepreneurs Award and was named by the FinTech magazine as one of the FinTech's top 100 leaders in the global league table. Jennifer was named ACCA Advocate of the Year in 2019 for both ACCA Hong Kong and Greater China, and has been heavily involved in ACCA's Greater China and global initiatives. In addition, Jennifer is instrumental in driving the FinTech development in Hong Kong and is an active member in many industry and professional bodies. So thank you again for the two guest speakers today. So let's start with today's session. Firstly, the topic of today's discussion is really on greening our economy and what does it mean for the different industries. We actually, sorry, though I was interrupted just now. Huh? Oh, okay. Well, what it means for the different industries suggests there is a top-down approach. And reality is not just a top-down approach, it's also a bottoms-up approach. Okay, so what does it really mean in terms of greening your respective industries? Perhaps I would turn to Jennifer to take this first question.
Okay,
Jennifer,
thank you.
please.
Yeah, thank you, Clarence. I think, just take a step back first, for green economy, I think we all know that it's aimed for sustainable development without degrading an environment. But there are lots of misconceptions. A lot of people are just always thinking about, if we're talking about promoting a green economy, they think about, okay, that means higher costs and lower profitability. But according to UN, they actually have a definition about this green economy. They're talking about this is actually low carbon, resources efficient, and socially inclusive. So in this regard, companies actually can drive green economy by making their business process more efficient, using fewer resources, and adopting green purchasing, such as replacing with renewable energy. And we just taking an example. We are not a listed company, so and also regulatory, although there are some requirements, but actually we don't have an urge say, okay, we need to make a lot of disclosure on the sustainability. But as an we strongly believe it is very important to drive sustainable development with the aspiration of integrating the social and commercial value creation. And as you know, and we always claim that, our DNA is, innovation. And we have always, driven, by society needs. And even the launch of Alipay was to solve the trust issue and also to promote financial inclusion. And so, what we done is that instead of because of Clarence mentioned, this the top down, we are actually bottom up. Back in 2016, without any, we are forced by any regulatory or anything, we just internally, we consider it is very important for us to look at, sustainability. And so we incorporate this in our overall business strategy. And we have identified 19 ESG material issues within our organization. And what we have done is that we actually integrate the management of these ESG issues into our day-to-day operation. So, we have different business presidents or key business personnel. They are in charge of these issues. Okay, so they need to say, set target. They need to set a performance indicators for them to make sure that all these 19 material issues are properly addressed. And they are actually part of our business strategies. So, frankly speaking, is that we look at it as a whole, our business strategy, instead of say, okay, this is green economy or non-green economy. It is actually as a whole.
Okay, that's interesting. Thank you, Jennifer. So if I can understand well, that's part of the DNA of the group, right? I mean, so it's not so much driven by...
innovation is part of our DNA.
Exactly. So it's not so much driven by external factors. It's really the company yourself, right? I mean, internally, this is what you really want to do as a company strategy.
Yes.
So that's quite interesting as far as as you said, I mean, not driven by regulation or external factors, but it's really in-house. Okay, so thank you for that, Jennifer. Chelsea, let me turn that question to you because you obviously in a very different environment compared to Jennifer. So that may mean differently for you because you may be faced with both external and internal factors, right? So take it away, Chelsea.
Sure. Thanks very much, Clarence. And I think actually many of the comments that Jennifer made is very relevantly, surprisingly maybe, but very relevantly applicable to lots of different industries. I think, to echo some of the themes that have, Jennifer discussed, is that you have to look at this if you really want to make a real impact. I think you really have to look at this from your own organizational motivations, right? So we are a listed company. We're listed in our home country in France, but at the same time, the listing rules, even the disclosure requirements from our regulators, are relatively qualitative, I would say. So even if we were just to tick a box, we could easily tick this box. And in fact, as we're talking about a FinTech, association organized by FinTech Association today, I have been told that there are some companies that are using AI and using NLP type of techniques to write their ESG policies nowadays, right? So you could take very much a very disconnected, I would say, approach to looking at greening the industry and the economy. But for AXA, I think it's something that's quite embedded in the day-to-day parts of what we do. So we look at our role of greening the economy or the industry in three parts. I think firstly, as an investor, because as an insurance company, we do collect a lot of premiums and we invest these premiums, right? And so part of our investment strategy is to ensure that we are really investing in real green assets. So not to kind of, do the type of very, I would say, brown assets or, slightly greenwashing assets. So we are quite strict and stringent in how we deploy our investment. And this is very important because this will also play a part in our underwriting process and how we look at our capital deployment. So the second part of what we do is we are acting as an insurer, of course. So as an insurer, talking about green, we have been insuring climate events and losses as a result of climate events and as a result of climate change over the last 200 years. So this is makes up a majority of, in fact, what we pay out in claims. So in that sense, it is completely in our backyard or our core business, right, to look at how the climate is changing, how can we slow down climate change, and to help our own customers understand what is happening around them in the climate and what is the green behaviors and sustainable behaviors they can exhibit, which will help them to have a longer term, more sustainable risk management view, right, of their assets. So this is really our core business. We are insuring climate related losses, climate events, and we want our customers to be much, much more in tune with that, right? And last but not least, we see ourselves acting as an educator, right? Because a lot of the times, we have teams of climate scientists and actuaries who sit within our organization, and we have the luxury of having these talented people to help us understand these risks. But many, many of our customers, whether it's individuals or corporations, do not have those resources readily available to them. So at AXA, we see part of our role is really to educate and provide insight to the wider industry and the wider economy. And so we created the AXA Climate School, which is a virtual education program, which really is a documentary educating people about what is the climate that we're in, how did we come to where we are now, over the last millennia, right? And then where are we going to be in the future? And then, of course, ending on, very importantly, what can we do to adapt and mitigate some of the trends that we see today, right? So you can really tell that we are very similar to Jennifer's organization. We're really embedding the greening of our business and our staff and our customers into our daily operations.
Yeah, it seems we are all like-minded.
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you, Chelsea. I think you touched on a few points. I mean, obviously the company's philosophy, which both I think from yourself and from Jennifer, it stands out really, right? I mean, this is really what the company's strategy is all about. Okay. And secondly, I think both your organizations actually cover quite a large region. I mean, being a global sort of insurer to a very broad regional and even going beyond borders, like a FinTech, if I can put a FinTech ecosystem, Jennifer, right? I know you do more than that. So you do cover various industries, and we talked about this, but more importantly, also different economies, okay? Ranging from, let's say, Asia to the GBA to, let's say, Hong Kong, or even, other continents around the world. So Jennifer, as far as the Ant Group is concerned, I mean, of course, you're active in multiple economies. So do you see actually a difference in the development, or how do you see the development of green in the various economies you operate in? And could there be any differences in your experience when you look at, you know, different policies or implications for different economies?
Yeah, actually, probably Canson know that, and we have sponsor GoImpact and also the Chinese University of Hong Kong to carry out, the Green FinTech study in 5 APEC economies for 2 years, 2 consecutive years since 2022. And it covers, Hong Kong, South Korea, Indonesia, Singapore, and Thailand. And it also happened in all these 5, economies, we all have our operation as well. And if we, based on the findings, we note that, frankly speaking, each jurisdiction, they have its own set of development. They may be, face, different challenges, and they have different opportunities, which are pretty unique to themselves. But one thing I'm happy to see is that, comparing 2023 to 2022, I'm pleased to see that, there are increasing participation from government. And also, we find that, engagement from both public and private sector are, also increasing. But of course, so far, across these 5, APEC economies, we all note that the involvement of those MSME, in particular those small ones, they are still relatively, roughly speaking, they're still, much lower. If we look at these 5 APEC economies, Singapore and Hong Kong, they are, undeniably, they are the leaders in the Asian region for green fintech, because first, have a much stronger support from the government, such as we all know that in Hong Kong, say we have this issue of the green bond, and in Singapore, actually, the government also invests a lot, try to encourage the growing green fintech ecosystem. But having said that, we also heard from, a lot of these Hong Kong, those startups. They consider that, it is challenging or difficulty for them to get funding in order to, take more green fintech initiatives. And if we look at South Korea, actually, the government, they have stepped up, their involvement in green fintech. They even, consider whether, to impose certain rules and regulations, to speed up the involvement of those public for those private sectors. And so we probably from the Korean side, as what Clarence mentioned earlier, it may be using this what we call the top-bottom approach, okay, in order to encourage bigger cooperation to speed up the development, okay. And Indonesia and Thailand, relatively speaking, they are, I would say they are still at this what we call the beginning stage. But of course, comparing this year and last year, we also see a lot of improvement. In particular, because Indonesia and Thailand, they are both very strong. Actually, they are very strong in agri-tech, okay. Agri-tech, they are very strong. So we find that now gradually they are probably at this transitional stage, moving right on their strong foundation, underpinned by the agri-tech, and moving to this fintech. And say we find that they will like in Singapore, like in Thailand, they actually very actively use the renewable energy. So these are some observations. But other than this, we also find there are some I would say across the board common issues. Okay, say for example, lack of government clear government policy. All consider that probably there's still room for government to strengthen the policy. And also probably is the education you need to make, no matter it's individual, big corporation, small corporation, private sector, they need to understand about that. What is the urgency, to adopt this green technology, and also the taxonomy, as Chelsea also mentioned about. For some countries, maybe it's just checkbox, qualitative. Some may be quantitative. Although say like in Hong Kong, they're already talking about starting next year they will adopt this ISSB. But I think this is still we see inconsistent treatment, and that means for an investor, it may also have a challenge for them. Say, because talking about like Chelsea, they may want to invest in some they talk about green investment, but whether that is brown or green, they will not know if you don't have a very transparent and standardized reporting or disclosure requirement. And another thing is about the talent. We also find that all the 5 APAC economies all face about this green fintech talent shortage, probably because this is very new. And quite a lot of people currently, maybe they are just from the traditional business, and then they transform themselves to this green fintech. The university or other education institution may not have the I say they not yet have the resources to train or nurture this green fintech talent. So these are our observation for this the different economies in the Asia region.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thanks for bringing this up, because I think it's quite topical when we talk about the region, right? I mean, there are differences, but I think if we look back in the last couple of years, there definitely have been a lot of progress made,
yes.
Right? Comparing reports from this year to last year, right? And I think one of the things you highlighted, which is very, very clear, is that the SME has to play a role, because they are part of the supply chain, and,
right.
and in Asia, we know that quite a large portion of our GDP is actually driven by the SME. So I think the adoption by the SME is equally important. It's not just the big boys game anymore, right? I mean, it's everybody's game. We have to be in it together. So thanks for bringing that up, Jennifer. I think it's very, very useful and relevant. So let me turn to Chelsea. Chelsea, we talked about the different sort of economies in Asia, right? What about from a your perspective as is AXA being a global sort of insurer, operating globally in very many countries? As far as you're concerned, you sit in Hong Kong. Obviously, you look after Asia, and more particularly, I think closer to home is the GBA. Okay, how do you see actually the global green strategy of AXA, and when it comes to applying that to what we do on a daily basis, meaning the GBA, has there been a difference, or how do you actually see that? Do they dovetail each other?
Yeah, so I think as an insurance company, obviously, many of our clients, we touch on many segments, right, of customers and clients,
Sure.
many industries. And I think one of the things which globally is extremely strong in terms of a theme, is all governments, especially the Asian governments in the past 5 years, have been investing heavily on ESG related industries, right? So if we look across the border, especially in China, in the GBA area, one of the most outstanding examples of this is the electric vehicles, right? So you can see that the amount of investment and innovation and technology that has evolved in electric vehicles, or we call new energy vehicles, because now there are also hydrogen vehicles which are coming out as well. The amount of technology evolution and development and investment in this area, in the GBA and in the Greater China area, has been huge over the last 5 years, right? In fact, China now has more than 50% of the world's new energy vehicles, right? So it, as one market, already encompasses more than half of the world's production and revenue generated in this. So I think there's actually many consistent themes around the world, not just in this region, but also around the world, on investment and the growth of ESG industries. The challenge for insurers, and I think it's not just insurers, but maybe financiers and others, is how do we keep up with this? Because as these new industries pop up, we are looked to as an insurance company to be able to underwrite the risk that's related to them and protect people, with these new risks. So, for example, electric vehicles, it's like we're changing from, a few hundred years ago, we're changing from the horse and cart to the combustion engine, right? So that took a while for us to perfect. And in that process, of course, there's lots of failures and there's lots of risks that arise, right? So electric vehicles is something very, very similar. You may have seen some, bad press about, for example, you know, engines going up on fire and exploding, you know, and then people are getting very scared, you know, what are we going to do with this, you know, because the technology is not as mature yet, right? So all these things, as insurers, we're being asked to think about how can we keep up with the technology evolution and actually be able to understand those risks quickly enough and to then be able to provide the relevant protection for our customers, right? And it's the same for in this region, in the Greater China area. I think is also, you know, wind farms offshore, for example, renewable energy generation. This is a huge topic for most countries, right? And as we strongly push, the governments are really accelerating the speed of which they want to switch over to renewable energy, right? Which essentially underlines a lot of all of our carbon emissions, right? Because if your energy is not green, then essentially it's very hard for you to get to net zero, right? So in that sense, we, as an insurance industry, we need to support the development of these projects and these new ESG risks, right, and industries. But we have issues on understanding them quickly enough. And of course, I think this applies for the finance industry as well, right? For banks and other lending institutions and investors who are looking at this, they also don't quite understand what are the risks involved, right? So in the beginning, there's a little bit of a slow pickup by the financial services industry, I think, which, you know, in the banking space, I think in the last few years has already accelerated quite quickly, you know, with green bonds and sustainably linked products and things like this. But for insurers, we're probably still a little bit behind in terms of how can we cater for this new space, right? And the speed of which the space is evolving, right? So a lot of themes globally for our underlying customers are the same, I would say. And in fact, some of them are being very much led in the Greater China area, like I mentioned around, you know, renewable energies as well as electric cars. So, you know, there's some really good, solid examples and use cases here locally on what we can do to support and to grow the green industries.
That's great. Yeah, thank you, Chelsea. I think that's very interesting for you to mention that, look, you know, maybe GBA is taking a lead in some areas because of the sheer size of the market. And you pointed out, you know, the example of EV, which is clearly the case, right? I mean, the number of EVs that are being manufactured and being used in the GBA and in the entire China region is so great, you know. So that really sets the stage, and also perhaps, you know, will be leading the way as far as that particular sector is concerned, and the finance industry will have to react, right? And hopefully we can be part of this process in driving to certain policies, or in your case, you know, certain insurance products that may be made available to address the risks that are concerned. So thank you for that. Jennifer, I cannot not talk about ant forests, okay, which is very, very famous. And in fact, Ant has also, you know, and I really applaud Ant's efforts, as you guys have already reached Scope 1 and Scope 2 carbon operational neutrality in the year 2022. So great applaud to that. But I'm sure that there have been some challenges, you know, when you go through this process in achieving carbon neutrality, and actually working some of the, let's say, initiatives like the ant forest, which is by far a very, very good initiative. So can you share with us some of the, you know, imperatives or problems when it comes to implementing these strategies within the ant group?
Yes, Clarence, thanks for, you know, asking this question, because a lot of people, when they always say, oh, you know, how good, you know, your ant forest, everything, you know, it seems so easy. I just recap, of course, as of today, you know, we already have over 650 million of our users participate in our ant forest, this program. And up to date, we already plant over 450 million trees. Okay, and this is only talk about ant forest. But, you know, if we're talking about, because of this, we also influence some other countries. Say, for example, we have a JV, partner in the Philippines called GCash. They also borrow this concept and also, you know, introduce similar program very successfully in the Philippines. And it also talking about, you know, for S1, S2, you know, we have consecutively 2 years already achieved the carbon neutrality. And even it seems we already achieved some milestone, but you're right. We still face a lot of challenges. You just think about at the very beginning we launched Enforce. Of course, our objective is we would like to encourage our user to participate, to involve. But at the very beginning, not everyone understands what's the advantage of this, and that's why, at that time, we treat it like a game. Okay, it's a game. Okay, I'm also one of the Enforce user. I'm playing with that. Say for example, I do an online purchase, or I conduct a certain activity. Then I will get what we call the energy credit. And by getting those energy credit, once you achieve certain amount, you accumulate certain amount, then you can say, oh, I can plant a tree. Okay. And, by doing that at the very beginning, you can say it's like a game, a mini game. Okay. Helping the user just to kill their time. Okay. But gradually, you actually let them, learn about, what they do, they can help, the world. And so by doing that, it is not just say, okay, you plant a tree. We actually let them can track about which tree, plant for them. And also another thing people is not aware is that we actually plant a tree, in those desert area in the in the northwest of China, and we actually hire those local people from those village to plant a tree. So we are not only just talking about for greening, but we also helping those low income group to earn more for their little food. And as I say, this already, we introduced Enforce in 2016, and then you can see after so many years, it's already become a good brand name. And because you are not the first, almost most of the people, to ask about, talk about that, give a lot of good comment for Enforce. And for our but as I say, like S1, S2, we already achieved carbon neutrality. S3 is a challenge for us because we all know S3 you need to have this upstream, downstream. Although that we a lot of our data center or which mainly we are using third parties services. We already make sure that they are using the green computing method. That means it is using renewable energy, but it's still a long way for us to go. I will say most of this challenge, just like the user, it is the mindset. Okay, we need to change the mindset. The reason is that people will consider green sustainability. It seems it is as I start at the very beginning, it's a cause, okay? But actually, we need to make them understand it can bring you business opportunities. It can bring you, something, you may, very innovative. So that is, how we need to switch the mindset of these people, of the people. And by switching the mindset of people, it is not easy. I think Chelsea understand, it's not easy. You need to do a lot of things because they need to appreciate. They need to see, there's really a business opportunity for them. And similar is that when we internally, we're talking about, we would like to achieve net zero. We also don't want to, people say, this is just a commitment. It's just I'm forced to do this. Actually, we want them to think from an innovative way. How can you, re-engineer your process, restructure something, then which actually can help you to achieve this net zero? Because we are not talking about something you just add or minus something. You are actually need to rethink about the whole business process. Or even there's something, you need to just think out of the box. It's not the way now you do your business. So all this you need to change, take some time. And another thing is the culture. Now, this is one thing which I learned from Helene, who is the partner of Clarence. We will talk about one thing. We think about the culture is that I think we all in the era is that we are being educated or we are being taught when we first joined this commercial world is that we look for profitability. So when you join a company, we always talk about profitability. But now we just have to know profitability is not the only performance indicator. Because a lot of time, if they always think about, say for example, we're talking about green purchasing, but when they look at the cost, okay, maybe green purchasing, you will have a higher cost. Then people will say, oh, that will affect my profitability. Why I need to buy those green products? But we need to let them understand, okay, why you still, you pay more, but actually maybe in some other way, you actually save more. So this is, if you ask me, I think we are still working on that. We are still, as I say, although people think that we are very successful, I would say we are still at the very beginning. But just we start earlier because we start in 2016. So relatively speaking, compared to some other company, we may be a few years, advanced. But if looking about the whole journey, I think we are still at the very beginning, and we still, try to explore different ways. How can we by education, by, as I say, embed the material ESG issues in our business strategy, to let the, to be part of our overall business strategy, to let the people when set a target to achieve that. We are still working on that direction. Yeah, thank you,
Jennifer. So you put it very interesting, because not only it's a requirement or it's being top down, it's really demonstrating or emphasizing on the benefits that it can bring, right? So rather than people say that, oh, it's additional cost for me, it's additional burden for me. So what is really in it, at the end that you can
the motivation.
benefit.
I think Chelsea also mentioned about is motivation, because we can't force people to do that. If they don't have the heart, okay, they don't have the heart to do that. They just, okay, because you have those KPI, then they just, okay, as I say, by the end of the year, they just check, okay, I have done this one. But it may not be the best way. We want them, to have the motivation. They really believe, say for example, like Enforce, it is really, a group of our colleagues who really have the, have that determination, and they drive that, and so it is so successful.
Yes, very good. Thank you. So I think it's, when we talk about, long-term viability or benefits that a company or in fact, individuals may be able to benefit from it, right? We talk about financial inclusion as well. Okay. But one of the key factors is, as we have sort of learned over time, that ESG or sustainability or this green sort of element is really being viewed as potentially a risk mitigant, right, for a lot of companies or SMEs. Okay. So, I cannot not turn to Chelsea, because when we talk about risk, it has to be insurance, right? So, and when we talk about, obviously from Jennifer's side, there's this famous ant forest, which had been extremely successful. I know from AXA's side as well, you have quite a comprehensive, greening journey, such as the digital journey for customers. And AXA is the first insurer in Hong Kong to offer green premium rebates, right? So can you share with us how your customers have reacted to these green initiatives that are undertaken by AXA?
Yeah, thanks so much, Clarence. And before I answer that question, I'm going to go and download, and play the Ant Forest game for sure. So I'm looking forward to that. But I think, look, I think we did start, and probably similar to Ant, we started a little bit earlier in the digitalization journey, and green premium rebates and things like this, because I think very much so you need to link this to what is the customer benefits. And so you not only just to engage with customers, but also engage with your own organization, right? Because your own employees are motivated by their customer engagements and the results they generate from customer spending, customer loyalty, retention, all these KPIs, the traditional KPIs. So if we can link what we do in the ESG space, the green space, to really providing end customer benefit, that means that your own employees are also going to automatically be motivated to focus on these things, right? So I think that's a very important link to do. But in terms of the digitalization journey, right? So I think the very first, and maybe we're now not the only ones, but I think we were one of the first to launch our Emma app back in, I think, 2000, I think about four or 5 years ago now, we launched Emma about 4 years ago. And initially, Emma was launched to allow for a digital claims experience for medical claims for our customers. Right. So, because most of the times when you look at insurance, buying insurance, in fact, the golden time to realize the promise is that claims time. Right. That's when we really step up as an insurance company. Otherwise, we are really selling a piece of paper and a promise to pay. Right. So in that experience, if you interview the day-to-day person, they probably feel that that's also the most painful part of the entire insurance journey. So, you have to fill out lots of paperwork, provide lots of receipts, copies of receipts. And, when I first joined the insurance industry, we were still using fax, right, at the time. So antiquated was the way that we deal with our claims customer journey that customers were being literally put off buying insurance, not so much because of the price, but because in the claims process, they get extremely frustrated, right? So from that starting point is where we built the digital fully straight through process on Emma to allow our customers to do digital claims processing and really being completely straight through, right? Not actually having to then, submit something and then have to call someone or someone has to call you back, So, we really, even uploading of the receipts, everything, take a photo, put it on, and then so on and so forth. And you literally receive a message, hopefully within, sometimes number of hours, but at least a number of days saying your claim has been accepted or not, or what's the situation. So we started from that, and that's where we saw a lot of customer engagement, right? Because we are literally solving for the biggest pain point that people had with the insurance throughout the insurance journey. So riding on that, I think this year we will probably already have about, and I don't even want to quote the number because there's nothing compared to Alipay or these type of platforms. But for an insurance app, I think it's still pretty good. We're probably heading towards the 500,000 active user mark, right, in Hong Kong. So, but since then we've added other parts to this journey, right? Because we also looked at, what are the things that are, first of all, causing a lot of pain points for customers because it's so manual and it's so paper driven, right? So things like downloading your policies, So we used to send out a booklet that's about 82 pages to you, to your mailing address, and then you will never read it. You will just put it somewhere. At best, you'll put it in your drawer. Worst is probably, it goes immediately in the hopefully recycling bin, So in that case, we decided, this is completely useless for customers. So we make, policy wordings available, your own personalized policy wording available on the Emma app. We also made the ability to renew your policy available on the Emma app. So then you don't have to fill in all these renewal notices, declarations, etc. So slowly we built up more and more functionality, right, onto the app. That's really helped us, of course, to limit the amount of printing we do and, postage and shipping that we have to do, which is, of course, a motivation in itself in terms of cost, right? But I can assure you that motivation is much, much less than the customer engagement and solving the pain points, right? So, and then beyond that, our journey looking at green rebates, green premium rebates. So, we ran a campaign, quite a successful campaign, for people to encourage them to look at their electricity bills from 1 year to the other. So if you live in Hong Kong and you have an electricity bill, actually it's quite easy for you to see the trend of you using all these by month, what is electricity you've used, right? And you can compare that for yourself. So what we encourage people to do is, join our campaign, share that positive trend, right? And we would reward them with a premium rebate or a green kind of a cash voucher for green services, So we had a lot of participation in this. And actually, it's not about getting the voucher or the rebate. It's about people just becoming aware and actually taking notice the next time they receive their electricity bill and just looking at the trend of their usage, right? So these are the kind of things that we are heading towards, we're building up more and more towards. But yes, it's being received very well from customers' perspective.
Great. So you again, you pointed out the benefits that your customers can actually benefit from, through this journey. We're running out of time, but I want to pick up the questions from the floor. So I would just read that out, and either one of you, Chelsea or Jennifer, you can address that if you like to. Which industry do you currently see being most proactive in transitioning to green? Given the number of industries that both of you cover.
Yeah. Actually, I think it is quite a number of industry. They are work quite actively. Insurance, we heard about that, and another say like a real estate. The property developers. I can find that now most of the property developer, they all have some of the green offices. Okay, they take a lot of this green concept, no matter in design, construction, a lot of things. So if I think quite a lot, but if just go up, I think it's like insurance, like property development, and even for shipment. Okay, the forwarder. I understand a lot of forwarders, for the logistic, they also consider to use those recycled materials for packaging. So I think quite a lot, but it's just maybe some are more obvious. Okay, because we can see, but some maybe they are much more behind the scene.
Yeah. And I think I may have mentioned this already a little bit, but I think the energy industry, right? Because we have to understand that, a lot of the fundamental infrastructural changes has to be public led, right? It has to be government regulator led. So that's where most of the investment from the government funding is going into converting renewable energy. Looking at core type of infrastructural changes, right? So in that piece, in that space, it's moving very, very fast, right? And especially in the Greater China GBA area. And I think coming up to the commitments that the Chinese government has made in 2030, we will see an even more accelerated move in this area and other related green industries in the Greater China area. In the next, I think 2025, we will see a real acceleration of this. So right. I do want to say one thing, which is probably not directly answering the question, but I want to mention that, and it's a bit of a personal pet peeve of mine, that I think the retail industry in Hong Kong needs to be a bit faster in the green transition. Okay. I look at the one single-use plastics and yes. things like this, which has already been phased out in many countries, many of them much less developed than Hong Kong. So I do encourage anybody who has a chance to encourage others to kind of reuse and recycle. It's important to do our little bit.
Okay, we get that. Okay, thank you, Chelsea. Okay, actually, there was another question which talks about really the matrix, but I think we did touch on that. I mean, I think electricity usage is probably one of the key in Hong Kong, given that we've got so many commercial buildings, and there was some data to say that, look, in fact, that derives a lot of the GHG in the Hong Kong market. So I think one matrix is obviously just to measure the usage of energy and how fast are we transitioning into a more green energy type sources. So hopefully that will address that question too. I know we're running out of time. Actually, we're beyond our normal time, but I want to give to each of you 30 seconds or longer if you want. How do you see actually this development? Any closing remarks that you would like to make, both Jennifer and Chelsea?
Okay, maybe I go first.
Jennifer, go first, please.
Yeah, I go first. Actually, I think one thing is that collaboration. I would like to emphasize. I think for ESG or green, all those things, it is not only to limit to one person or one company. We need to work very closely together, especially when we're talking about scope 3. Okay, so I think it is a collaboration, not only cross-sector or cross-border collaboration. And second thing is that rely on technology. I think we can rely on technology to do more, to do faster.
Thank you, Jennifer. Chelsea?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm very honored today to have Jennifer with me, because she always previews a lot of what I have in my mind as well. So we're definitely on the same page. I was just about to mention my biggest closing remark would be about building up the ecosystem across industries to make sustainability in itself sustainable, right?
Yeah.
And able to grow, because by ourselves it is completely not doable. Right. And I think we have to recognize, no matter which company we work for, big or small, we have to recognize that. And the earlier we do that, and the earlier we start to share, resources, share information, share talent, and talk to each other about these things, the quicker we can make the transition as an economy. So I think this is going to help everybody. And, I want to come back to the point that you made, Clarence, about the SMEs, right? So I think in most of these conversations that we have today, even with regulators or other, associations, a lot of it is focused on the larger corporations, right? And there really is a gap between what large corporations can do and smaller, SMEs and individuals. So I think it's important that we think about, as an economy together, how do we give access to that information and those tools to the SMEs so that they can play an integral part, right, in that transition process. So I think that's very, very important to focus on going forward.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you both, Chelsea and Jennifer, for your closing remarks. So, well, I really like to conclude firstly by saying it's a great honor to have both of you today and sharing your views. It's very valuable. And thank you again for your participation. And I would also like to thank the Hong Kong FinTech Association for co-hosting this three-part series together with GoImpact. And before we end today's session, I know Brian from the FinTech Association will also like to say a few words. So Brian, please take it away. Brian, you're on mute. Hey, Brian. Wow. We see your avatar, but we couldn't hear you.
Hi, both Jennifer and Chelsea, and also Clarence. I don't know whether you can hear me. I can't seem to get my camera on.
Yes, we can hear you well now. Yes, yes.
Great. So I'm speaking from afar, shall we say. But really great. Thank you both so very much for joining us today. This has been a distinct honor. Okay. Well, my camera doesn't want to work, so I apologize for that. But, it's been a distinct honor, and I love what Jennifer and both Chelsea said. Yeah, so I'm muting that so you can hopefully hear me. So what Jennifer said about collaboration, this is exactly what we're doing here. We're having a fantastic collaboration between FinTech Association and GoImpact. So thank you very much, Clarence, and Helene for this great collaboration. With technology, this is why the FinTech Association is here. So as we all know, green FinTech will be a big theme coming up in 2024, and we're really looking forward to working with the ecosystem and with all of you all to kind of promote that. And it really is about the ecosystem. So once again, thank you very much, Jennifer and Chelsea. This is the third of our series of 3 presentations. And in fact, we had earlier sessions in relation to green tech, but also in relation to climate. So we're really looking forward to working with all of you again in 2024. And we love this collaboration as well. So Clarence and Helene, thank you very much. And thank you everyone in the audience for joining us. Thank you.
Exactly. Thank you, the audience. And again, a big applause to our 2 guest speakers. Thank you so much, and wish you all have a good evening. That concludes today's webinar.
I guess that's it. Oh, let's see. One last thing. We want to take a nice photograph of all right. 3 of you, because we couldn't, otherwise all of you will be half-mouthed, so to speak. So if you all would smile for the screen for now, then we can take a little photograph of the 3 of you. That'll be great. Thank you. 1, 2, 3. Cheese. Thank you all so very much. And thank you once again for joining us this evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Have a good evening, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.